All right, guys, here we're going to be doing part three. Part three is called Evaluating Commas with Fanboys. If you're just watching these tutorials before you actually dive into the no red ink, after you identify the coordinating conjunctions, it might be in your best interest to do evaluating commas with fanboys before identifying the function of fanboys. Just because in order to identify the function of fanboys, you have to know what the commas in these sentences mean. Please stop. Sorry about that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at it and get started. I'm going to go to the practice. When you open it up, it's going to ask you, should there be a comma before the highlighted word? We're either going to add a comma or don't add a comma for this one. And for some of the questions, we might keep the comma or we might remove the comma. It's just going to depend on the sentence. Drake Parker and his pet lizard played fetch in the park. We need to figure out if there is a complete sentence on the left side and a complete sentence on the right side. Remember, complete sentences have a subject and a predicate. A subject is a who or a what, and the predicate is the action that the subject is doing, okay? So Drake Parker, we don't have enough information there, do we? All we have is Drake Parker. That could be the subject, but we don't know for 100% because we don't see a predicate, we don't see a verb. So we're not sure if Drake Parker is the subject or not, and we definitely don't have a predicate. So we don't have a complete sentence to the left. When I automatically know I don't have a complete sentence on one side or the other, I can just go ahead and safely say that I'm not going to need a comma. The only time we're going to need a comma is when we have a complete sentence on the left of the fanboy and the right of the fanboy. I'm going to look over here, though, and just explain this to you as a sentence. His pet lizard played fetch in the park. This is a complete sentence because I have his pet lizard. That is my subject, my complete subject. And then I have played fetch in the park. That's my predicate. That's my verb. His pet lizard played fetch. So I have a subject and I have a predicate. I have a who doing something. And please ignore my dog in the background. Drake Parker and his pet lizard played fetch in the park. I don't need to add a comma. Han Solo looked hungry, so I gave him the last slice of pizza. I'm going to look to the left. Han Solo looked hungry. I have a subject and I have a predicate. I have a who doing something. He looked hungry. That's my verb. Han Solo looked hungry. Subject, Han Solo, predicate, looked hungry. I gave him the last slice of pizza. Who did the action? I. And what's the predicate? Gave him the last slice of pizza. So I have a who, and I know what that person did or that thing did. In this case, it's a person because it's I. I have a subject and a predicate on the left, and I have a subject and a predicate on the right. I'm going to need a comma to connect these two ideas with this fanboy, okay? So I'm going to add a comma. Autumn Rivers arrived at the soccer game, and the coach breathed a sigh of relief. Autumn Rivers arrived at the soccer game. My subject is Autumn Rivers, and what is my predicate? Arrived at the soccer game. I have a who, and I know what they did. I'm going to go look over here. The coach breathed a sigh of relief. I have a who, and I know what they did. The predicate is breathed a sigh. So I have a subject and a predicate on this side as well. This means that I'm going to need a comma before the fanboy to successfully join these two complete thoughts. So I'm going to click add a comma. Essentially, what you are doing in this no red ink practice is you are pretending that that fanboy that is highlighted is a huge wall, and what is to the left needs to be its own complete sentence, and what is to the right needs to be its own complete sentence. If it is, then we add a comma. If it's not a complete sentence, then we don't have a comma. Rafinki will build a giant ramp. My subject, my who, the one doing the action is Rafinki. And what is the action? Will build a giant ramp. look to the right. I will ride down it on my scooter. My subject is I because I'm doing the action. What is the action? Will ride down it on my scooter. So I'm going to keep the comma because I am connecting to complete thoughts. This is the last one I'm going to do with you guys in this section. Oliver Wood ordered pizza and a steak for dinner. I'm going to look to the left. I'm going to pretend this is a huge wall right here. And I'm going to ask myself, is this a complete sentence? Oliver Wood ordered pizza. I have a subject, Oliver Wood. I know he's my subject because he is doing an action. And because there is an action here, I have a predicate. I have a subject and a predicate, so I have a complete sentence. Oliver Wood ordered pizza. Over here, I have a steak for dinner. I don't have enough information here. I don't have a subject and a predicate. I don't have someone or something doing an action. So we're not connecting complete thoughts here. Even though this right here is a complete thought, all this to the right or to the left, all of this to the left right here that's highlighted, that's a complete thought. But in order for me to use a comma, I have to have a complete thought on both sides. Here I'm just kind of listing what this person had for dinner, okay? So I'm not going to add a comma. This one can be relatively confusing. If you're struggling with it or you need help with it, you just need to let me know. If you're really having problems and I'm not around, try to talk yourself through who or what in this part of the sentence is doing an action. So right here, you're going to cut this off like it's a wall, and you're going to pretend like this is its own sentence right here. Who is doing something? Who or what is doing an action? If you don't have an action or you don't know who is doing the action, you don't have a complete sentence. Remember, you have to have a complete sentence on both sides in order to need a comma. If you have it on one side but not the other, you don't have complete thoughts. So just slow down, be very careful, and do your best.